My beloved child, have you ever wondered why someone you love suddenly walked away from a person they once trusted with everything? Don't skip, because what you're about to hear is far deeper than it first appears. From the outside, it looked like an ordinary goodbye, but hidden beneath that single moment was a decision that had been growing silently for a long time. Sometimes the loudest battles are fought without a single spoken word. Throughout history, people have left powerful friendships, familiar places, and comfortable lives because truth became more valuable than comfort. Even in the Bible, we see people walking away from what seemed important so they could follow a greater purpose. What looked like loss eventually became the beginning of an incredible transformation. The person you love reached a moment where pretending was no longer possible. They saw something that changed the way they viewed everything around them. It wasn't anger. It wasn't revenge. It was a quiet realization that their heart could no longer stay where their spirit felt trapped. Something huge is waiting for you, because the real reason behind that decision is far more surprising than anyone imagined. The days before that moment were filled with invisible signs that almost everyone ignored. Conversations became shorter, smiles became weaker, and silence slowly replaced words that once came so easily. Scholars often say that the biggest changes in human life begin internally long before they become visible. That is exactly what happened here. While everyone believed everything was normal, an unseen battle was taking place inside the heart of the person you love. They kept asking difficult questions that no one else could hear. Was loyalty being mistaken for fear? Was staying the same preventing real growth? Every answer pulled them one step closer to a choice that would shock everyone around them. Don't skip, because the next part of this story reveals the hidden truth they discovered, a truth that made walking away feel less like an ending and more like the only path left to take. Every heartbeat was leading toward a revelation that would change everything. Then the unexpected happened. The person you love finally recognized that not every relationship is meant to last forever, and not every familiar face belongs in the next chapter of life. What seemed like an impossible goodbye became the doorway to hope, wisdom, and unexpected peace. The surprising reason wasn't hatred or betrayal. It was the courage to protect a future that could no longer grow in the shadow of the past. That single decision may look painful today, but some of the greatest stories ever told began with someone brave enough to walk away from what everyone else believed they should keep. Stay till the end of this journey, because this is only the beginning. The next chapter will uncover the one secret they have never spoken aloud, a secret that explains why this goodbye was connected to something much bigger than anyone could have imagined. Something huge is waiting for you. A single choice can redirect an entire life, and that is exactly where this story becomes impossible to ignore. Stay till the end, because the reason behind that unexpected goodbye was hidden long before anyone noticed it. Don't skip. Every smile you saw covered a question that had been growing for months. The person you love wasn't simply walking away from someone important. They were walking away from a version of themselves that no longer felt real. History is filled with moments like this. Great leaders, faithful servants, and courageous men and women often faced a crossroads where comfort stood on one side and purpose stood on the other. Scripture reminds us that wisdom sometimes requires separating from what weakens the heart so that a greater calling can begin. To everyone watching from the outside, it looked sudden. But inside, countless silent nights had already prepared them for this moment. They had finally realized that remaining in the same place would cost them something far more valuable than leaving ever could. As the distance grew, something unexpected began to happen. Instead of feeling empty, they started noticing peace replacing confusion. It wasn't immediate, and it certainly wasn't easy, but each step away uncovered another hidden truth. The voices that once controlled their decisions became quieter. The fear that once kept them trapped slowly lost its power. Scholars who study human behavior often explain that lasting change begins when a person chooses long-term purpose over temporary comfort. That is exactly what unfolded here. The person you love stopped asking, "What will everyone think?" and started asking, "What kind of future am I meant to build?" That single question changed everything. Don't skip, because the next revelation is the one nobody expected. Someone who believed they would always have influence suddenly realized that influence was gone forever. Something huge is waiting for you, and the consequences of that discovery were only beginning. What happened next surprised even the person you love. Once they walked away, doors they never imagined slowly began to open. New opportunities appeared where disappointment once lived. Hope quietly returned where fear had ruled. Looking back, they understood that the painful goodbye was never the final chapter, it was the first page of a completely different story. Sometimes the greatest blessing arrives disguised as the hardest decision. And perhaps that is the lesson hidden within this journey: not every ending is a punishment, some endings are protection. Stay till the end of this story, because the next part reveals the astonishing message they received after walking away. A message that explains why this decision may have changed far more lives than their own. Something huge is waiting for you. Not every answer arrives the moment a difficult decision is made. Sometimes the truth waits in silence until the heart is finally ready to receive it. Don't skip, because this is where the story takes an unforgettable turn. Days after walking away, the person you love experienced something they never expected. It wasn't a dramatic event that everyone could see. It was a quiet realization that settled deep within their soul. The weight they had carried for so long was suddenly gone. For the first time in what felt like forever, they could breathe without pretending everything was fine. Throughout Scripture, moments of transformation often came after seasons of separation. Before new beginnings appeared, old burdens had to be left behind. What seemed like loneliness was actually preparation. What seemed like uncertainty was quietly becoming strength. Something huge is waiting for you, because the discovery they made next explained why that painful goodbye had been necessary all along. As the days passed, hidden pieces of the past began fitting together like a puzzle. Conversations they once dismissed suddenly made sense. Warnings they had ignored became impossible to forget. They realized that what looked like support had often been control, and what felt like loyalty had slowly become fear of change. Historians often point out that the greatest turning points in life are rarely recognized while they are happening. Only later do people understand that one decision altered everything that followed. The person you love reached that exact moment. They stopped mourning what they had lost and started appreciating what they had escaped. Every step forward revealed another blessing they could never have found by standing still. Don't skip. Stay till the end, because the next truth is even more surprising. Someone from their past was about to uncover the impact of their departure, and that realization would shake them in ways they never imagined. Then came the moment that changed the entire meaning of the story. The person your loved one had walked away from finally understood that their absence could not be replaced. Respect that had once been taken for granted suddenly became impossible to recover. By then, however, the person you love was no longer looking backward. Their eyes were fixed on a future filled with hope instead of fear. They understood that some chapters must close so better ones can begin. The greatest victories are not always loud. Sometimes they are found in the quiet courage to keep moving forward when every emotion begs you to turn around. Stay till the end of this journey, because the next chapter reveals an unexpected encounter that no one saw coming. An encounter that will answer the biggest question of all. Something huge is waiting for you. The story could have ended there, but destiny had one more surprise waiting in the shadows. Stay till the end. Don't skip, because this next moment changed everything the person you love believed about the journey they had taken. One ordinary day, they crossed paths with someone who knew the entire story from a completely different perspective. Without realizing it, this person revealed pieces of the truth that had remained hidden for years. Suddenly, every confusing moment, every painful conversation, and every difficult goodbye began to make perfect sense. What once felt like rejection was actually protection. What once seemed like failure had quietly become the foundation for a far greater future. Throughout history, countless lives have been transformed not because circumstances became easier, but because one hidden truth was finally revealed at exactly the right time. The conversation uncovered something almost unbelievable. The person they had walked away from had never expected them to leave. They believed fear would always keep them close. But courage changed the entire story. Biblical wisdom reminds us that truth has a way of bringing hidden things into the light, and that is exactly what happened. The person you love realized they had not lost their value, they had finally recognized it. Every painful step had prepared them to discover a strength they never knew they possessed. Don't skip, because the next revelation is even greater. Something huge is waiting for you. The decision that once looked heartbreaking had quietly inspired others to make brave choices in their own lives. One act of courage had created a chain reaction no one could have predicted. As the sun set on that unforgettable chapter, the person you love no longer questioned whether walking away had been the right decision. They finally understood that some people enter our lives to teach us, while others leave our lives to free us. The greatest miracle was not that someone important was left behind, it was that hope, peace, and purpose were finally found ahead. Every ending had been leading to this beginning. And if you've stayed with this story until now, remember this: sometimes the most surprising reason behind a goodbye is that it makes room for the life you were always meant to live. The final chapter will reveal the one truth that remained hidden until the very end, a truth that connects every moment of this journey into one unforgettable conclusion. Something huge is waiting for you. The final piece of this story was never hidden in a dramatic confrontation. It was hidden inside a quiet moment that almost no one would have noticed. Don't skip, because this is where every question finally receives an answer. Days after everything had changed, the person you love looked back, not with regret, but with clarity. The pain that once felt unbearable had become proof of how much they had grown. They realized they had not been abandoned by hope. They had been guided toward it. Just as many faithful people in Scripture discovered that difficult seasons often prepared them for greater blessings, this journey revealed that every closed door had been protecting an open one they could not yet see. Something huge is waiting for you, because the greatest surprise was still ahead. Then came the revelation that tied every chapter together. Someone who had quietly watched the entire situation finally spoke the truth. They admitted that the person your loved one walked away from had been holding them back for far longer than anyone realized. It wasn't always obvious, and it wasn't always intentional, but the relationship had slowly become a barrier instead of a blessing. Hearing those words changed everything. Suddenly, every difficult choice made perfect sense. Every sleepless night, every tear, and every moment of doubt had been leading to freedom rather than failure. Don't skip. Stay till the end, because the most powerful lesson of this journey is one that can change any life. Sometimes the bravest act is not holding on, it is trusting that letting go can make room for something greater than you ever imagined. As this story comes to its turning point, remember that every meaningful journey includes moments that seem confusing before they become beautiful. The person you love did not walk away because they stopped caring. They walked away because they finally understood the difference between carrying a burden and carrying a purpose. Their future was waiting on the other side of one courageous decision. And perhaps your own story carries the same quiet invitation, to believe that today's unanswered questions may become tomorrow's greatest testimony. Stay with this journey until the very end, because one final truth remains to be uncovered, and when it is revealed, you'll understand why this goodbye was never the end of the story. Something huge is waiting for you. Every great story reaches a moment when the silence speaks louder than the words. Don't skip, because what happened next was something no one, not even the person you love, could have predicted. Long after the goodbye, they discovered that peace had quietly replaced the fear that once followed them everywhere. The questions that had kept them awake at night no longer demanded answers. Instead, they carried a deep confidence that the difficult decision had been the right one. Looking back, they realized the journey had never been about escaping a person. It had always been about becoming the person they were meant to be. Throughout the Bible, we see that seasons of waiting often prepare people for blessings they cannot yet imagine. The same unseen preparation was taking place here. Something huge is waiting for you, because the next discovery revealed that this story had touched far more lives than anyone knew. As the weeks passed, people who had once doubted the decision began noticing the remarkable change. The person you love was no longer weighed down by constant worry. Their words carried hope instead of fear. Their actions reflected quiet confidence instead of hesitation. Even those who had questioned the goodbye started admitting that something extraordinary had happened. Historians often remind us that the greatest transformations are recognized only after time has passed. At first, courage looks like a mistake. Later, it becomes the very reason others find the strength to change their own lives. Don't skip. Stay till the end, because one unexpected encounter was about to reveal a truth that had remained hidden since the very beginning. Something huge is waiting for you, and it will connect every chapter of this incredible journey. Then, in the most unexpected way, the final lesson began to unfold. The person you love understood that forgiveness was the last step toward complete freedom. They didn't need revenge. They didn't need anyone to admit they were wrong. Peace had already given them something far greater, a future untouched by the pain of the past. They smiled, not because the journey had been easy, but because every challenge had shaped them into someone stronger, wiser, and filled with hope. Sometimes the most surprising reason behind walking away is not what you leave behind, but what you finally discover within yourself. Stay with me, because the next and final chapter reveals the unforgettable ending that proves every painful step was leading toward a purpose greater than anyone could have imagined. Something huge is waiting for you. At last, every hidden thread of this story came together. Don't skip. Stay till the end, because the truth you're about to hear is the one that changes everything. The person you love finally understood that the most important step they ever took was not toward someone new, it was toward a new life. Looking back, they no longer focused on the goodbye itself. Instead, they saw how every difficult moment had quietly prepared them for something far greater. The confusion had become wisdom. The heartbreak had become strength. The fear had become faith. Just as countless stories throughout history reveal that the hardest roads often lead to the greatest destinations, this journey proved that what first appeared to be a painful ending was actually the beginning of a remarkable new chapter. Something huge is waiting for you, because the final revelation is not about the past, it is about the future that was made possible because of one courageous decision. The greatest surprise was that nothing had been wasted. Every tear, every unanswered question, and every lonely night had shaped a stronger heart. The person you love realized that some doors close not to punish us, but to guide us toward the ones that truly belong to us. Biblical wisdom teaches that there is a time to hold on and a time to let go, and only in the right season can we understand the difference. Now the reason behind that unexpected goodbye was perfectly clear. Walking away from someone important had never been an act of defeat. It had been an act of courage, wisdom, and hope. Don't skip, because this lesson belongs to anyone who has ever wondered whether a painful ending could become the start of something beautiful. The answer is yes, and this story stands as living proof. So if you're carrying questions that still have no answers, remember this journey. Sometimes life asks you to release what feels familiar so you can receive what is truly meant for you. The person you love did not lose their future when they walked away, they found it. And perhaps the same truth is quietly waiting in your own life. Every ending carries the possibility of a new beginning, every goodbye holds the seed of a better tomorrow, and every step taken in faith can lead to a destination greater than you ever imagined. Stay with that thought today, because the most surprising chapters of life are often the ones we never see coming until they finally unfold before our eyes. Something huge is always waiting for those who have the courage to keep moving forward. The story may have reached its ending, but its message continues to echo long after the final goodbye. Don't skip. Stay till the end, because one last truth has the power to change the way you see every difficult season in your own life. The person you love eventually discovered that the greatest victories are rarely celebrated the moment they happen. They grow quietly, one faithful step at a time. What once felt like an unbearable loss became the very reason new opportunities appeared. The people who once questioned the decision slowly began to understand that courage often looks confusing before it looks wise. Looking back, every painful moment fit together like pieces of a masterpiece that could only be seen from the other side of the journey. Something huge is waiting for you, because the greatest lesson was never about leaving someone behind, it was about refusing to leave hope behind. As time passed, the peace they had found became impossible to ignore. Their confidence no longer depended on the approval of others. Their future was no longer controlled by the mistakes of the past. They had learned that true freedom begins when your heart is no longer chained to yesterday. The Bible reminds us that after every season of waiting comes a season of renewal, and that promise became real in their life. Every challenge had strengthened their character. Every disappointment had increased their wisdom. Every closed door had quietly directed them toward a better one. Don't skip, because this truth belongs to anyone who has ever wondered whether life can become beautiful again after a painful ending. The answer is found in the courage to keep moving forward, even when the road ahead cannot yet be fully seen. And now this journey leaves you with one unforgettable thought. Perhaps the person you love walked away from someone important not because everything was falling apart, but because something far greater was being built where no one could yet see it. Sometimes the most surprising reason behind a goodbye is that it becomes the first step toward a life filled with purpose, peace, and lasting hope. If this story has taught us anything, it is that faith is strongest when the future is still hidden, courage is greatest when the outcome is uncertain, and the most extraordinary chapters often begin with one decision that everyone else misunderstands. Stay till the end of your own story, because your greatest chapter may still be waiting to unfold. Something huge is waiting for you. Sometimes the greatest revelation comes long after everyone else believes the story is over. Don't skip. Stay till the end, because the final mystery behind this journey is about to be uncovered. Years from now, when people remember this story, they will not remember the goodbye as the defining moment. They will remember what came after it. The person you love eventually realized that every difficult decision had quietly been shaping a future filled with unexpected joy. The road ahead was not free from challenges, but it was finally filled with purpose instead of confusion. Looking back, they understood that every delay, every disappointment, and every unanswered prayer had been preparing them for a season they could never have imagined. Throughout history, the people who changed their lives were often the ones who had the courage to leave behind what no longer served their purpose. Something huge is waiting for you, because the greatest surprise was not what they lost, it was what they gained. Then an unexpected message arrived from someone connected to the past. It wasn't filled with anger or blame. Instead, it carried honesty that had never been spoken before. The message admitted that the person your loved one walked away from had finally recognized the value of what had been taken for granted. But by then, everything had changed. The person you love had already discovered peace that no apology could replace. They had learned that healing does not always require explanations. Sometimes healing begins the moment you stop waiting for others to understand your journey. Biblical wisdom reminds us that truth eventually comes into the light, and this moment proved exactly that. Don't skip. Stay till the end, because one final realization remained. Something huge is waiting for you, and it is the lesson that transforms this entire story into something unforgettable. The greatest miracle was never the goodbye. It was the person who emerged after it. Stronger than before. Kinder than before. Wiser than before. The heart that once carried fear now carried hope. The future that once seemed uncertain now held endless possibilities. That is why this story matters. It reminds us that the people we love are sometimes called to walk away. Not because they are giving up, but because they are finally moving toward the life they were created to live. If today's chapter feels painful, remember that tomorrow's chapter has not yet been written. Stay till the end of your own journey, because the ending you fear today may become the beginning you celebrate tomorrow. Something huge is waiting for you, and the final chapter will reveal the lasting message this extraordinary journey leaves behind forever. The final chapter begins with a simple truth: every journey has a purpose, even when we cannot see it. Don't skip. Stay till the end, because the answer you've been searching for has been hidden in this story from the very beginning. The person you love did not walk away because they wanted to destroy something valuable. They walked away because they finally understood that peace cannot grow where fear is constantly planted. The goodbye that looked heartbreaking became the doorway to a future filled with clarity, courage, and hope. Looking back, they realized that every obstacle had strengthened them, every disappointment had refined them, and every unanswered question had quietly prepared them for this very moment. The greatest victories in life often begin with the hardest decisions, and this was one of them. Something huge is waiting for you, because the final lesson reaches far beyond this one story. As time continued to pass, those who had once doubted the decision began seeing the remarkable transformation with their own eyes. The person you love no longer searched for approval from people who could never understand their heart. Instead, they chose wisdom over fear, faith over uncertainty, and purpose over comfort. The Bible reminds us that those who remain faithful through difficult seasons are often strengthened in ways they never expected. That truth became reality here. Every painful memory slowly turned into a reminder of how far they had come. They no longer wished to return to the past because they had discovered something far more valuable, a future filled with possibilities that could never have existed if they had stayed where they were. Don't skip. Stay till the end, because the greatest surprise is not that they walked away. It is that walking away became the beginning of everything they had been praying for. And now this journey becomes your reminder. If you are standing at a crossroads, wondering whether today's difficult choice could lead to tomorrow's blessing, remember this story. Sometimes life closes one chapter so another can begin with greater purpose. Sometimes what feels like an ending is quietly becoming your greatest beginning. The person you love found strength because they were willing to trust the path ahead instead of remaining trapped by the path behind. Their story proves that courage is never wasted, hope is never meaningless, and faith is never forgotten. Stay till the end of your own journey, because your most beautiful chapter may still be waiting just beyond the next step. Something huge is waiting for you, and when it finally arrives, you'll understand that every goodbye was leading you toward a better tomorrow. The journey does not end with a farewell, it ends with understanding. Don't skip. Stay till the end, because the final truth is the one that gives every chapter its meaning. The person you love eventually discovered that the most important relationship they had been searching for was not with someone else, but with the person they were becoming. Every difficult decision had shaped their character. Every tear had taught them compassion. Every lonely season had built a strength that comfort never could. Looking back, they no longer asked, "Why did this happen?" Instead, they quietly smiled and asked, "What was this preparing me for?" That single question changed everything. The answer had been there from the beginning, waiting patiently for the right moment to be seen. Something huge is waiting for you, because the greatest surprise was never hidden in the goodbye, it was hidden in the transformation that followed. As life moved forward, blessings began appearing in ways no one expected. New friendships were built on honesty. New opportunities arrived with perfect timing. The fear of yesterday slowly faded as hope became stronger than doubt. The person you love realized that faith is not believing every road will be easy, faith is believing that every step has a purpose, even when the destination is still out of sight. Just as many of the greatest stories in Scripture reveal that perseverance is rewarded in unexpected ways, this journey proved the same timeless truth. Every chapter, even the painful ones, had been guiding them toward a future filled with peace instead of pressure. Don't skip. Stay till the end, because one final message remains, a message that belongs to anyone who has ever wondered whether a broken season can become a beautiful beginning. Something huge is waiting for you, and it is closer than you think. So as this story comes to its quiet conclusion, remember what it has shown from the very first moment. The person you love walked away from someone important not because love had disappeared, but because wisdom had finally awakened. Sometimes the bravest choice is the one that no one else understands until much later. Every ending carries the possibility of a greater beginning, every challenge hides a lesson, and every faithful step moves you closer to the life you were meant to live. If this journey has taught us anything, it is that hope always has the final word. Keep moving forward with courage, keep believing when the path seems uncertain, and never forget that today's unanswered questions may become tomorrow's greatest testimony. Stay till the end of your own story, because the best chapter may still be waiting to unfold. Something huge is waiting for you.